What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to what is the largest lake in every US state. The largest lake in every US state. I mean, I know in the north of the US, obviously in the border with Canada, you've got many lakes that are some of the biggest, but they're all within like one state, like Michigan, no? Or within like a few states, the northern states. But in terms of lakes throughout the US, I assume some states, like let's just say Nevada, have... Do they even have a lake? I mean, I assume they probably do, but it's probably quite small. But I guess actually I always do this. I like comparing it to British lakes. I'm gonna compare it now. Emma Stone's there, right? Because of my reaction that I done 20 minutes ago. Don't worry, it's nothing else. No mischievous acts are happening. If you want to see, go to the end of my reaction to what was I even going to say? Reaction to strange things that Americans do. Biggest lake in Britain. Loughney. I don't even know how you say this. Loughney. Loughneyag. I don't know. How big is it? Loughney. It's actually in Northern Ireland. About 20 miles. What the hell? It's in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland's tiny. Well, I guess that is then 20 miles wide. Well, then let's see the largest lake in each US state.
Right behind me is Lake Michigan, the largest lake entirely within the United States and one of the largest bodies of fresh water in the world. I'm in Chicago, Illinois, but Lake Michigan isn't only in Illinois, of course. It's shared by 4 states in total. So what are the largest lakes that are located entirely in just one state? Let's take a look at all 50 states' largest lakes in order from smallest to largest surface area. I'm Chicago Geographer. Don't forget to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more GeoGuessr and geography videos just like this one, and let's get started. Delaware is the first state and the first state on this list. Their largest lake is so small it's only called a pond, Lum's Pond, with a surface area of 0.31 square miles.
Wow.
Lum's Pond is also the first of many man-made lakes on this list, which I chose to include because the majority of states' largest lakes are actually man-made reservoirs, and they can be just as important to recreation and wildlife as natural lakes. Back to Lum's Pond though, it was built to help fill the Chesapeake and Delaware Canal's locks. Today, a very pleasant state park surrounds the pond.
Fair.
Over in Hawaii, they've got a natural lake as their largest, but this one presents an unusual case. Halali'i Lake is ephemeral, meaning it's only full of water during the rainy seasons. At its fullest, it measures about 1.31 square miles. This lake's remote location on the sparsely populated island of Niihau means it doesn't get many visitors. At least, that's what I gathered from the most liked review on Google Maps. Vermont also has the natural largest lake in Lake Bomazene, which feels appropriate for a state so admirably protective of its natural beauty. Vermont is also famous for the vast Lake Champlain, but that is of course shared with New York. Lake Bomazene, entirely in Vermont, measures at 3.75 square miles, and it's the first mainly residential lake on the list, with hundreds of homes circling its shore.
Residential lakes are pretty cool, I can't lie. Like, having a lake in your back garden would be incredible.
An even more residential lake is New Jersey's largest. Lake Hopatcong is about 3.9 square miles and located among the far west suburbs of New York City. This lake is natural but was expanded by damming and merging 2 ponds. It was a popular resort destination for well-off New Yorkers for many decades, but became more residential after the Great Depression. West Virginia's almost entirely mountainous terrain doesn't leave much room for lakes to form, and sure enough, its largest lake is man-made. Summersville Lake is 4.22 square miles in area.
This is a weird-ass lake. This lake looks like a river. What? So it's all the way from here. Bro, like when I'm picturing lakes, I'm picturing like open areas.
A narrow lake formed by a dam along the Gauley River. It was built in the 1960s, and in 2023, a northern section of the lake became a new West Virginia state park. Rhode Island really outperforms its size by avoiding the bottom 5. The smallest state's largest lake is the Scituate Reservoir, a 5.3 square mile body of water that looks impressively large relative to tiny Rhode Island. Along with several other smaller interconnected reservoirs, it provides drinking water to the majority of Rhode Islanders.
Important then.
The largest lake in Maryland is way out west in the Panhandle. Deep Creek Lake is another man-made reservoir, checking in at 6.09 square miles. Along its hilly shoreline is a good mix of residential developments and recreational areas. Visitors to this beautiful lake can check out one of the greatest town names in the country nearby, Accident, Maryland. Connecticut keeps us in the northeast for now, with Candlewood Lake at nearly 8.
The UK's still kicking, man. I mean, this is 8.47 square miles. The UK was 20. Damn, we're going quite far up.
0.5 square miles being its largest. Its location in western Connecticut makes it part of the official New York City metro area, and is the largest lake in that region. This reservoir's southern end stretches into the city of Danbury, and it's a popular summer home destination.
Yeah, I understand
Pennsylvania seems a bit early on the list for a state its size, although technically a Great Lakes state with part of Lake Erie.
So a lot of these lakes are very narrow lakes. Obviously, I know, like, because of how it looks isn't what makes it a river, but this does look like a river formation.
Largest lake entirely in PA is Raystown Lake at 13 square miles. It's a reservoir snaking its way between the Appalachian Mountains. The lake was created in 1972 by a dam that flooded the original dam from 1905, which is now a scuba diving attraction.
Damn.
And rounding out the bottom 10...
I didn't even mean that, I just said damn. Scuba diving. It's like I meant to say damn. Fairs, I mean... It is a dam, and I said dam, but...
from 1905, like which is now a scuba diving attraction. And rounding out the bottom 10 is another surprisingly large state, Colorado. Interestingly, there's no...
Bro, I would have assumed Colorado would be way higher than this.
Larger lake here than Blue Mesa Reservoir, coming in at 14.34 square miles. Formed by a dam along the Gunnison River, this lake is protected as part of a national recreation area, and for good reason too. Blue Mesa Reservoir is stunningly beautiful. Midwestern Indiana's largest lake is Lake Monroe at 16.8 square miles. Yet another reservoir, this one's in the picturesque hills near Bloomington and is one of 2 lakes on this list that I've been to. My friends and I camped nearby last year and hiked along this cool peninsula. It was unseasonably cold and snowing though, classic Midwest weather. Neighboring Ohio's largest lake is an interesting one.
The UK's been beaten out finally by Ohio. Fair enough.
The very rectangular Grand Lake St. Mary's at just over 21 square miles.
See, this is what I'm talking about when I'm thinking of a lake. Bro, this is in my mind, again, I know this isn't how it works, but in my mind, this is a true lake.
This lake is man-made and took 8 years to complete while workers dug the lake bed with hand tools. Once finished in 1845, it was apparently the largest man-made lake in the entire world. Despite its size, the workers didn't dig down too far. The average depth is just 5 to 7 feet. And here's the other lake I've been to, Iowa's Lake Red Rock. Just southeast of the state capital, Des Moines, it's a reservoir measuring about 24.25 square miles. An exactly 1 mile long bridge crosses the lake, which was really interesting to drive across with my friends on the way to our campsite. We also did take a quick swim in the lake.
Fair.
Kansans out there watching can be very proud that they beat Colorado at a geography category, as their Milford Lake checks in at 24.5 square miles. This one's located right next to Junction City and the sprawling Army base Fort Riley, providing ample recreational opportunity for residents. Like many other reservoirs, another main goal of creating Milford was flood control. It's been a good run of artificial lakes, but Michigan finally delivers another natural lake with Houghton Lake. At 31.32 square miles, this is a vastly popular outdoors destination, and just about every inch of its shoreline has a house or hotel on it.
See, I can imagine during the summer, these, like for example, this one here, you got homes all around it. This would be incredible in the summer, man.
Lake freezes over in the winter and hosts one of the nation's largest festivals for ice.
Wait, on the fair? I mean, it's got multiple uses.
Ice fishing and other winter activities. And it's right back to man-made lakes with Virginia's Smith Mountain Lake, a 32 square mile reservoir southeast of Roanoke. Created in the
This is the most fascinating looking one yet.
1960s as a hydroelectric dam project, it now provides electricity and drinking water to the area, which has also become very popular for its desirable real estate and plentiful recreation. Arizona takes us southwest for the first time. The largest lake entirely within the state is Theodore Roosevelt Lake. This 33.58 square mile reservoir is part of the Salt River Project, a government utility which manages several reservoirs along said river that provide drinking water to the millions of central Arizona residents. I absolutely love the name of Massachusetts' largest lake, the Quabbin Reservoir, in the center of the state. Occupying 38.6 square miles, this is the main drinking water source for Boston and many of its nearby suburbs, despite being much closer to Springfield. The land around the lake is mostly undeveloped and only accessible on foot in order to protect the water quality. And here's my home state of Illinois, but unfortunately I've never been to Carlisle Lake, our largest one, at about 40.6 square miles. Located straight east of the St. Louis area, it's formed by a dam on the Kaskaskia River and primarily exists for flood management. And of course, it would not be a true Illinois landmark without being immortalized in song by Sufjan Stevens. Mississippi takes us over 50 square miles for the first time, with its Grenada Lake measuring about 55 square miles. Several large reservoirs, including Grenada, were built in this part of the state for flood protection after the Great Mississippi Flood of 1927. This remains the most destructive flood in US history, so I can see why they wanted to prevent it from happening again.
Flipping out.
Out in Nebraska is Lake McConaughey, or apparently Lake Mac, as locals say. A 55.78 square mile reservoir, it was completed in 1941 as part of a New Deal era project to provide hydroelectricity and improved irrigation to Nebraska. Kingsley Dam, which creates the lake along the North Platte River, was the second largest earthen dam in the world when it was first finished.
They're getting huge now.
New Mexico has a fun largest lake name, Elephant Butte Lake, which is right next to another fantastically named American town,
This lake, truthful. What the hell are these names? Truthful Consequences. What? So this lake here
is a fun largest lake name, Elephant Butte.
Like all of this river down here is part of it, isn't it?
Butte Lake, which is right next to another fantastically named American town, Truth or Consequences. Name a more iconic duo. When the lake was filled in 1916 to 57 square miles, it was the largest man-made lake in the world. It gets its name from a supposedly elephant-shaped rock formation that's now an island at the southern end. Atlanta area residents know Lake Lanier well, a 59 square mile reservoir northeast of the city. Several water events were held here.
So it's close, it's actually like very close to a major city.
The 1996 Summer Olympics, and it remains a highly popular recreation destination. Since the lake impounds the Chattahoochee River that also flows in Alabama and Florida, it led to a tri-state dispute over rights to withdraw the lake's water. Tennessee has several large reservoirs that it shares with other states, so the largest entirely in Tennessee is Watts Bar Lake. Measuring about 61 square miles, it's a narrow lake following the winding path of the Tennessee River, which was dammed to create it. The dam produces hydroelectricity as a major component of the Tennessee Valley Authority's projects. And North Carolina rounds out the bottom half of this list, finally giving us another natural lake. Just inland from Pamlico Sound is Lake Mattamuskeet at about 62.5 square miles.
Okay,
located in...
You know, it's a mad, like, this is like how I sort of picture it. This is crazy because you can't even see the other side of the like any land at all.
In a very rural and swampy part of the state, the lake is home to a national wildlife refuge with thousands of migratory waterfowl arriving at its shallow waters every year. We are halfway through this video now, and I just want to quickly thank all of my channel members. I'm able to continue experimenting with videos and producing quality content thanks to your generosity. If you enjoy videos like this one and want to become a member, just click join down below and you can gain access to exclusive videos, behind the scenes, and so many more perks. With that said, let's get back to this video. Starting up the second half of the video is yet another southern state, Arkansas, whose largest lake is Lake Ouachita. Aptly located in the Ouachita National Forest near the city of Hot Springs, this 63 square mile reservoir provides everything one could want from a reservoir: hydroelectricity, drinking water, flood control, and countless recreational opportunities. New Hampshire joins the exclusive natural largest lake club with the impressive Lake Winnipesaukee measuring 71 square miles. It takes up a pretty big chunk of small New Hampshire's center, and it's in fact the third largest lake in all of New England. Lake Winnipesaukee was the site of the country's first intercollegiate sporting...
This one's crazy. This one is ridiculous, and this is 24th. This one looks massive.
...event, the Harvard-Yale Regatta in 1852.
Jeez.
Lake Cumberland is the largest in Kentucky, a huge reservoir created along the Cumberland River in the Appalachian foothills. At 79 square miles, there's enough water in the lake to cover the entire state of Kentucky in 3 inches of water. The lake is critically important to the economy of the region, drawing millions of tourists and producing significant electricity. New York's largest lake isn't quite one of the Finger Lakes, at least geologically,
Oneida?
but some locals do call Oneida Lake the
Oneida.
Thumb, given its chunky shape and thumb-like placement.
Bro, the region here, man, it's like, oh, the thumb, yeah, like fingers here. This is a random looking area. What the hell has happened here?
Compared to the others. At nearly 80 square miles in surface area, this vast and relatively shallow lake is part of the historic Erie Canal. Many small lakefront towns dot its shoreline. You might have guessed Lake of the Ozarks for Missouri, but Truman Reservoir barely beats it by just a few hundred acres. Coming in at 87 square kilometers, it's a far less touristy lake just west of Lake of the Ozarks along the same river, the Osage. Like basically every reservoir on this list, its creation displaced several towns and communities, but today provides a wide variety of resources and benefits.
Forget
Oregon
people then.
kicks off the top 20 with the breathtaking Upper Klamath Lake with a surface area of about 96 square miles. It's a natural lake, but a dam was completed in 1917 to help manage the water levels. Despite the lake's good looks, it earned a reputation for foul-smelling water in the pioneer days, driven by its high accumulation of nutrients and therefore microorganism growth.
Oh god.
Alabama brings us over the 100 square mile mark with Guntersville Lake, a 108 square mile reservoir that occupies the northeast corner of the state. It's another lake along the Tennessee River, and like Tennessee's largest lake, it was created as part of the Tennessee Valley Authority's projects to revitalize river transportation, electricity, and recreation in the region. Finishing the New England states is Maine's largest lake, which is also New England's second largest lake. Lake Champlain takes the gold, but up in Maine we have Moosehead Lake, a natural lake of about 117 square miles, sitting in the rural mountains.
What I think about this, like these sorts of lakes, right? There's like massive, like, these islands are going to be a few miles wide, like for sure, like, and they're probably going to not have had any, like, or maybe they're going to have like a very few amount of people who have even stepped foot in these, so they're going to be so isolated, so away from everything. I wonder how like the wildlife would be in these, like, on these like islands here, especially like these two big ones here. Like I assume no humans have really been here very often, unless you really love going to your lakes and you own a boat. Because you said this is an isolated place as well. Like not many people live nearby or whatever.
Maine, we have Moosehead Lake, a natural lake of about 117 square miles, sitting in the rural mountainous forests of the state. The small town of Greenville at its southern edge is one of the only built-up parts of its shoreline. Washington's famous Grand Coulee Dam along the Columbia River creates Lake Roosevelt. At about 125 square miles, it stretches along a huge portion of the Columbia, nearly reaching Canada. The lake is protected as part of the Lake Roosevelt National Recreation Area, and Grand Coulee Dam is the largest power station in the country.
Crazy.
Visitors to Yellowstone National Park have almost certainly seen Yellowstone Lake, the largest lake in Wyoming. This picture-perfect, all-natural lake measures about 136 square miles, and being 7,700 feet above sea level, is North America's largest lake at high elevation. A centerpiece of America's first national park, this is one of the most culturally important lakes in the world.
Special.
Neighboring Idaho's largest lake is Lake Pend Oreille, an incredible 148 square mile and natural lake located in the Panhandle. This is an immensely popular lake for recreation among inland Northwest residents. As the 5th deepest lake in the country, it proved useful for U.S. naval training during World War II, and some submarine testing is still conducted here.
Damn, look at that.
It's right back to reservoirs for a bit with Oklahoma's Eufaula Lake at about 159.4 square miles and located right in the middle of eastern Oklahoma. It's part of the Canadian River system and also has a distinct reddish tint from the red soils of Oklahoma. And incredibly, we have ourselves a tie between Oklahoma's largest lake and South Dakota's. Also measuring about 159.4 square miles,
They're exactly the same size.
Francis Case is the largest entirely in South Dakota.
I mean, okay, this, in terms of size, they're the same, but I'm saying the one beforehand takes the win. It shouldn't be a tie, it should be above, because it's a bit more of like, again, I said this before, it's more together. This looks like a river. I know it's not, but it looks like a river.
This state...
I'm probably pissing so many people that love their geography off, like, saying these sorts of things, right? But, and don't get me wrong, they can be beautiful as hell, but I've said what I've said. They got to be wide open for me to love them.
Absolutely nuts with reservoirs, by the way. Basically, the entire Missouri River has been dammed and turned into artificial lakes here. South Carolina apparently refers to its largest lake as their inland sea. Maybe locals can confirm or deny that in the comments. Lake Marion is a vast reservoir covering nearly 172 square miles. A giant dam spanning several miles on the Santee River provides hydroelectricity and forms this lake, which stretches nearly all the way to Congaree National Park. Nevada is home to very famous lakes like Lake Tahoe and Lake Mead, but those are shared with other states, so the largest lake entirely in Nevada is Pyramid Lake. At about 175 square miles, this is the first saline lake on the list and is in fact a remnant of a much larger lake.
Does saline mean salt water? Let me see. Saline. Is it salt? I mean saltwater lakes, right? So how does that happen? Because if it's not near any water, maybe like the area surrounding it, like the rocks or whatever, they're just full of salt. I mean, that's probably a very easy explanation of, if anything. But so this would like feel like seawater. Like seawater makes me like my skin really red. Like I've got eczema, so my skin is quite sensitive to certain things, and seawater always triggers my eczema. Like, I can't really put my face under like in the seawater, or if I do, I have to be like proper clean it and moisturize it after. Like it's quite a long day for me if I touch salty water. I assume this would be how it would feel like this, just without the sand, which is quite depressing. But at least you got half of it. You got half a beach, half an ocean. You just not got the sand to go with it.
Hudson, which dried up about 9,000 years ago at the end of the Pleistocene Ice Age. The second largest state, Texas, ranks just 10th place. The Sam Rayburn Reservoir does a bit better among reservoirs, being the 9th largest man-made lake in the US. It's, of course, the largest lake entirely in Texas at about 179 square miles in surface area and located in the far east. The Angelina National Forest protects wooded areas around the lakeshore. We return to the Midwest with Wisconsin's Lake Winnebago. Measuring about 215 square miles,
This is a lake, bro, and there's like a big civilization on it as well. I don't know what, I mean, that's probably not a good thing for the actual environment, but it looks cool. I'm just thinking, has Nevada been said yet? It might have, and I've just forgot. If it hasn't, I guess Nevada would be like the smallest lakes. I'm in for a shock, I feel like.
Formed at the end of the Ice Age when glacial meltwater was blocked from flowing into Green Bay. Today, this lake supports several of Wisconsin's larger cities, namely Appleton, Oshkosh, and Fond du Lac, with hundreds of thousands of residents relying on it for drinking water.
Flipping hell.
California's Salton Sea, measured at 318 square miles in 2023, probably shouldn't exist. It emerged in...
Is this the one that's in GTA? Is this the lake? It's based off this lake. Looks quite similar.
1905, when a series of poor irrigation decisions diverted the Colorado River's water, rapidly filling an ancient lake bed. At first becoming a popular tourist spot, runoff from...
Is this the one that had loads of dead fish?
Farms and extreme salinity soon led to mass wildlife deaths and...
This is the one with all the dead fish on the shoreline, isn't it?
Desertion of resort towns. This is a fascinating but very depressing case in California's environmental history.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen and heard about this before, and I think it is the one that is in GTA. Sad lake, man. It had it all to go, and then it just had those issues, and then it just went to shit.
Montana brings us another insanely huge reservoir with Fort Peck Lake. Occupying nearly 383 square miles along the course of the Missouri River, it's located in an extremely rural part of Montana. Despite the lake's size, which ranks it as the country's 5th largest artificial lake, there's essentially no development on its shores except for the dam creating it.
Flippin' hell.
Minnesota is famous for its 10,000 plus lakes, and the absolute largest one of them all is Red Lake.
Oh, this is a monster lake. How much of a jump was it? Okay, it's 60 kilometers squared.
Famous for its 10,000
60 miles squared
plus lakes, and the absolute largest one of them all is Red Lake. It's actually very close to being 2 separate lakes because of these peninsulas, but as a whole, it's about 444 square miles, and for metric system enjoyers, that breaks the 1,000 square kilometer mark for the first time. Oh. Most of the lake is part of the Red Lake Native American Reservation. Geographically right between the previous 2 states, North Dakota beats them both and claims 5th place with its 575 square kilometer reservoir, Lake Sakakawea. It occupies close to half of the Missouri River's path through the state and is the 2nd largest man-made lake in the country, behind only another Missouri River reservoir, Lake Oahe, which is shared by both Dakotas. The final 4 lakes are all natural lakes, and Louisiana falls just shy of the podium with the 630 square mile Lake Pontchartrain. Located right next to New Orleans, it's crossed by a causeway which is the longest continuous water crossing bridge in the world. Geologically, Pontchartrain is technically an estuary with its open connection to the Gulf of Mexico. Third place goes to Florida and its Lake Okeechobee, with its surface area of about 730 square miles.
This is a lake. They're all lakes, but this is a lake.
This ranks it as the second largest freshwater lake entirely
It is massive.
in the lower 48 states, behind only Lake Michigan. Despite the immense...
Bro, the biggest one in the UK was 20 miles. 20 square miles. And it was in Northern Ireland. If we're talking about, like, I'm just going to talk about England. I'll probably search that at the end. Bro, it's probably like 10 miles wide. Square miles wide. Like, these are really, like, beyond comprehension, realistically.
And size of this lake, big enough where you can't see land on the other side. It's very shallow and averages only 9 feet deep. The Great Salt Lake of Utah is second.
It averages 9 feet deep when it's that big. What the hell?
Place for now. Recorded at about 950 square miles in 2021, this is in fact a record low for this incredibly salty lake, which has been subject to drought and water diversions in recent decades. Historically, it was well into the thousands of square miles.
This is scarily big. And I've realised Alaska's not came up yet, so we didn't miss out on Nevada. I just couldn't remember it. Maybe it just wasn't very memorable. Alaska's going to be huge.
As recently as the 80s, it hit 3,300 square miles. For the time being, the Great Salt Lake remains the Western Hemisphere's largest saltwater lake and is of utmost importance to protect. And at last, we arrive at the largest lake in the largest state, Alaska's Iliamna Lake. At 1,012.5 square miles, it's the 7th largest lake in the country, behind only the 5 Great Lakes and Lake of the Woods. It's situated in remote southern Alaska, between the national parks of Katmai and Lake Clark. No giant and isolated lake like this would be complete without its own lake monster legend. Real or not, this lake is home to all kinds of fascinating wildlife, such as rare freshwater seals. Although very hard to reach, the scenery at this lake would certainly make the journey worthwhile. And that's all 50 states done. I really hope you...
I enjoy these videos. It's just fun to see the stuff, but when you compare it to... Let's see now, England. Not Britain, England. Like, close to me. Windermere. Oh, I want to see how big it is. Lake Windermere. Size. I gotta see this, man. 14 kilometers. This isn't even in miles. 14 kilometers squared. And this one was... Look, we're comparing it to Alaska, right? Flipping hell. Where is Lake Windermere? Oh, it's near, like, Liverpool. How big is... Wait. Norfolk... Look, this is really close to me. Norfolk Lakes. So 63 lakes. Oh, there you go, the Broads. That's like quite a famous place in the UK. The Broads. So these are some lakes. Let's just get you some images of like how they look here. Just like they're just not very wide. They're beautiful, like they are very beautiful, but if it wants to load, you can't really compare that the size. Like this could probably fit like 4 boats, small boats each way. Like they're very small, but I mean it's quite cool. You got like windmills and stuff. God, I've not been to the Broads for years. They are pretty beautiful. UEA Lake. So this is the university in my city, and I think this has the biggest lake in my city. Obviously, lakes in cities are quite rare anyway, so they're not going to be that big. 19 acres. I think it's probably man-made as well. But yeah, no one cares anyway. I'm just trying to do this to see myself, but to put it into comprehension just how big these are. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this reaction, and that's pretty much it. Until next time, like, subscribe. Peace.